Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada.
Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki Jai, Harinam Sankirtan ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Dharma Bhavana Prabhu, for joining me in the Kirtan.
Hari Hari.
Hare Krishna. Apologies for my slight delay in coming in. Are all devotees able to hear us?
Yes, yes.
Yes, Prabhu.
Dhira Govinda Prabhu, thank you for joining us today for this third session. And today we are going to cover a very important topic, which is related to how devotees should relate to the ethnic and religious tensions. Of course, there is nothing religious about tensions, but on the basis of religion, there are tensions in many parts of the world. And we are going to look at how devotees should relate to these things, how they should, in their own local environments, manage the situation as we practice our devotional service. So I will hand over the time to Dhira Govinda Prabhu, and I will share the screen with the Mangala Charan verses to start the discussion with prayers to Srila Prabhupada and the disciplic succession. Prabhu, I need the access to the sharing as well.
I've done it, Prabhu.
Okay, thank you. Is everyone able to see the Mangala Charan verses on the screen?
Sure, yeah. Om
All right,
Gyan
thank you.
Pandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayamupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Cha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raganatanditam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhasute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpata Yubhyascha Vipasindhyeva Cha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine. Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Om Namo
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Okay, so thank you. Hare Krishna. So Jagannath Prabhu suggested and chose a special verse appropriate for the topic of today's discussion. This is a verse spoken by the great devotee Maharaj Chitraketu in the 6th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 6, text 41. Vishama matir nayat shrinuinam tvam aham iti mama taveti chayad anyatra Vishama diarachito ya sa ya vishudha kshaishnur adharma bahula. Well, the translation is being full of contradictions, all forms of religion, but Bhagavat Dharma work under conceptions of fruitive results and distinctions of you and I and yours and mine. The followers of Srimad Bhagavatam have no such consciousness. They're all Krishna conscious, thinking that they are Krishna's and Krishna is theirs. There are other low-class religious systems which are contemplated for the killing of enemies or the gain of mystic power, but such religious systems, being full of passion and envy, are impure and temporary. Because they are full of envy, they are full of irreligion. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Bhagavad Dharma has no contradictions. Conceptions of your religion and my religion are completely absent from Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Dharma means following the orders given by the Supreme Lord Bhagavan, as stated in Bhagavad Gita, Saradaman Prityagya Mamekam Sharanam Braja, 18.66 Bhagavad Gita. God is one and God is for everyone. Therefore, everyone must surrender to God. That is the pure conception of religion. Whatever God orders constitutes religion. Dharmam tu sakshat bhagavat pranitam. That's from 6th canto Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3, text 19. In Bhagavat Dharma, there is no question of what you believe and what I believe. Everyone must believe in the Supreme Lord and carry out his orders. Anukulyena Krishnanu Shilanam. Whatever Krishna says, whatever God says, should be directly carried out. That is Dharma, religion. If one is actually Krishna conscious, he cannot have any enemies, since his only engagement is to induce others to surrender to Krishna or God. How can he have enemies if one advocates the Hindu religion, the Muslim religion, the Christian religion, this religion or that religion? There will be conflicts. History shows that the followers of religious systems without a clear conception of God have fought with one another. There are many instances of this in human history, but systems of religion that do not concentrate upon service to the Supreme are temporary and cannot last for long because they are full of envy. There are many activities directed against such religious systems, and therefore one must give up the idea of my belief and your belief. Everyone should believe in God and surrender unto him. That is Bhagavad Dharma. Bhagavad Dharma is not a concocted sectarian belief, for it entails research to find how everything is connected with Krishna, Ishavasyamidam Sarvam. According to the Vedic injunction, Sarvam Kal Vidam Brahma, Brahman, the Supreme, is present in everything. Bhagavad Dharma captures this presence of the Supreme. Bhagavad Dharma does not consider everything in the world to be false. Because everything emanates from the Supreme, nothing can be false. Everything has some use in the service of the Supreme. For example, we are now dictating into a microphone and recording on a dictating machine, and thus we are finding how the machine can be connected to the Supreme Brahman. Since we are using this machine in the service of the Lord, it is Brahman. This is the meaning of Sarvam Kal Vidam Brahma. Everything is Brahman because everything can be used for the service of the Supreme Lord. Nothing is mithya, false. Everything is factual. Bhagavat Dharma is called Sarvot Krishna, the best of all religious systems, because those who follow Bhagavat Dharma are not envious of anyone. Pure Bhagavats, pure devotees, invite everyone without envy to join the Krishna consciousness movement. A devotee is therefore exactly like the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Suridam Sarvabhutanam. He is the friend of all living entities. Therefore, this is the best of all religious systems. Whereas so-called religions are meant for a particular type of person who believes in a particular way, such discrimination has no place in Krishna consciousness or Bhagavat Dharma. If we scrutinize the religious systems meant for worship of demigods or anyone else but the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we will find that they are full of envy and therefore impure. Hare Krishna. Translation. Again, being full of contradictions, all forms of religion but Bhagavat Dharma work under conceptions of fruit of results and distinctions of you and I and yours and mine. The followers of Srimad Bhagavatam have no such consciousness. They are all Krishna conscious, thinking that they are Krishna's and Krishna is theirs. There are other low-class religious systems which are contemplated for the killing of enemies or the gain of mystic power. But such religious systems, being full of passion and envy, are impure and temporary. Because they are full of envy, they are full of irreligion. Thank you. So perhaps we can remove the share screen at this time. Hare Krishna. Yeah, thanks for inviting me to participate in this conversation related to ethnic, religious, cultural strife like that. And as Jaganivas shared towards the start, if it's genuine religion that actually transforms the heart to godly qualities, and that's the goal, a pure love of God, as from the Old Testament, probably Jesus's Maha Mantra, V'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'kol levavcha b'kol nafshcha b'kol morecha, love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your might. Then there's no question of strife or envy, and because then our goal is simply to cultivate self-realization and love of God and share it with others. There's some of you, maybe not many. Well, back in the 1960s, there was a female singer named Janis Joplin. And anyhow, so Janis Joplin, she had a song and the lyrics were very clever. The lyrics were, oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? My friends all have Porsches. I must make amends. Yeah, you can see I know all the Shastra. Right. So, so it's very clever because it really it represents, in the name of religion, the goal is I need a Mercedes Benz, and this isn't just Janis Joplin or the Protestant work ethic, the Protestant work. The way that we can really tell if God's mercy is on us if we're doing well financially. And of course, if someone is doing very well financially, doesn't mean they don't have God's grace. It's just it's not like an intrinsic positive correlation. And so many religious systems in the Vedas and in Western, Mid-Eastern type religions, the goal becomes economic development. The goal becomes be good and you can really enjoy in heaven. The goal becomes, as Chitraketu's verse indicates, the goal becomes we get to become one, a sort of merging into God's existence. There are different goals. Though if we look at the essence of the teachings of Bhagavad Gita, of Jesus, of Muhammad, if we look at the essence of genuine spiritual paths, the essence isn't about to do well materially or enjoy in heaven. The essence is to love God with all your heart, all your might. That's why right at the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, the second verse of the first chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva establishes Dharma Projita Kortivatra Paramanyamat Saranam Stam Vedam Vastram Atravastu Shivadam Tapo Chayon Mulanam, completely rejecting all religious systems that are materially motivated. This Bhagavad Dharma propounds the highest truth, which is understood by those devotees who are completely non-envious, those servants of God who are completely non-envious. Because if the goal is a Mercedes-Benz, I'll go to church to get them. I'll go to temple for a Mercedes-Benz. Okay, she has a nicer car than me. Why is he getting more appreciation than me? It's built on envy. And so it's not that like God made a mistake for giving different relatively lower consciousness religious systems. The principle is God as the supreme educator is naturally meeting people where we're at, just like an effective educator can understand how different children will learn. This child will learn with eye contact. This child will learn, get them moving in physical activity, then they're ready to receive knowledge. So God meets all groups of people where they're at, and some, we are not really ready for pure devotion, for love of God in service. But okay, yeah, kind of dangle a carrot. Yeah, you'll get some material benefit. But any connection with God is purifying, and then the motivations are purifying. And this isn't just Western, Mid-Eastern type religions. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Chatur Vida Bhajante Mam, Jana Sukriti Arjuna, Ato Jigyasa Artati, Ganicha Bharatarshaba. Krishna says some approach God because they want money. Some approach God because they want to relieve suffering. Maybe they have disease. And some approach God for different reasons that aren't completely pure just to please God. And Krishna emphasizes, for whatever reason someone approaches God, or God's pure devotee, like Jesus or Srila Prabhupada, it's auspicious, it's magnanimous, it's purifying. And even if we do our service to God because we got some alternate motivation, we'll get purified. And so it's fully recommended. I'm remembering. This was, okay, yeah, I spent about 8 years of my life in the Middle East, especially Haaretz Yisrael, and we were serving Srila Prabhupada's movement in Israel. And we made one visit to Egypt, and we had a lot of association with persons from Lebanon and Syria. And so I was living in the midst. I was living in the midst of Jewish cities like Tel Aviv, and for years I lived in Arab villages. One Arab village in the north of Israel called Ramah. The name was Ramah of the village. So this is like a well-known place in the world for religious, ethnic, cultural, racial, national strife. And so, all right. So we were distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, and I was going into the Arab villages. And just if you follow me here, it's a personal experience that for me relates to the theme of our conversation today, a devotional, godly, self-realization perspective on the different strife, around ethnicity, culture, nationality, race, religion, like that. Okay. And this is such a perfect verse that we just read from Bhagavatam to bring in these philosophical and and emotional points. So I was dressing completely in devotional dress, dhoti, kurta, tilak, shaved head with sika. And for the villages we were going in, it was, for me, it was the safest dress. This was back late 80s, so I was in my 20s, okay? And so that's a while ago. And so yeah, if I went in there, if I went into some of these villages, villages like Saknin and Shvaram and Arabe, if I went into some of these villages looking like a nice Jewish American Israeli boy, young man, I would probably get a knife in the back, not exaggerating. And this is completely true. So I just look like some sort of foolish freak or something, laughing. But okay, but it was the safest dress. In fact, as we would share with some aspects of the Israel population, like the villages we were going to, and they would say, that's insane. That's insane. You'll get killed there. We can't understand how you haven't gotten killed. I still don't understand. So either we were completely ignorant or transcendentally protected. Sometimes we'd be walking in the villages, and the police would come, and they would say, like, what do you what are you doing here? And not like there was nothing illegal to be there. There was nothing illegal to be there, but they were just like, this is extremely dangerous. We're here to protect, and like this someone of your body, um, American, white, Israeli, Jewish, like you're gonna get killed here. You're gonna get hurt and killed, and like. I mean, oh, well, yeah, we're destroying Prabhupada's books, just whatever. Okay, so and so okay, I remember. So one fine day, I was in a village called Saknin. It was like a fundamentalist Islamic village. It was in Medotin. And generally in those villages, we would, okay, anyway, I was in, I strolled my car and it was like, it's kind of like, in many ways, the villages looked like they did 1,000 years ago, okay? It didn't, not looking like a modern or postmodern town or city, okay? Mideast village. And I went into a dentist office, and because in that particular village, I wanted to get like persons who I regarded probably were relatively more educated. And the dentist was busy, so I was waiting in his office. I was waiting in his office, and and well, actually, as time when I got to see the dentist, and he took an entire set of Prabhupada's books, of the books we had in Hebrew and Arabic. Very wonderful, very kind, wonderful gentleman. Anyhow, so there in his lobby, in his office lobby, there was a calendar. There was a picture calendar, like we have picture calendars, and on this particular month, the poster, the painting of the calendar for that month, there was, okay, it was a blown up photo. It was a blown up photo. And yeah, it was a blown up photo, and kind of in the foreground, you had in close up in the foreground, you had a Palestinian boy, maybe 12, 13 years old, a Palestinian youth, and he had his arm like this, like he was about to pitch a baseball, pitch a baseball, right? But he wasn't holding a baseball, he was holding a rock. And then in the distance, a little blurry, there's an Israeli soldier holding his machine gun. Okay, so this was in the dentist office. Okay. Okay. And it was the dentist, he was not like a violent man, but he was like, he appreciated, we had a very nice philosophical discussion. He gave a nice donation for Prabhupada's books in Arabic and Hebrew. So this was the This was the calendar picture. and okay, so I just, and this was kind of commonplace doing Sankirtan book distribution in those villages. So I got an idea, and when I went back to the Sankirtan house, that was my home. When I went back to the Sankirtan house in the Hadar section of Haifa, I had inspiration. I wrote an article. When I say wrote, in those days, I didn't even have a manual typewriter, what to speak of an electric typewriter. I didn't know what laptops were. Don't even, even today, don't speak to me about smartphones, but whatever. So, and with a pen and paper, I wrote an article and actually sent it to Philip, to the Back to Godhead magazine office in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I put it in an envelope. So the article got published. It was called A Farce of Fate, got published there in 1989. It was called A Farce of Fate. And so in the article, I wrote, like, I described the picture on the calendar. I described the picture on the calendar, and I said, okay, so like the Bhagavad Gita, eternal spiritual principle, yam yam vapi smran bhavam tyajat yante kalevram tum tum eveti konteya sadhatad bhava bhavita. Whatever state the soul is absorbed in with our consciousness, whatever bhava, that will lead us to our next body. It's the basic principle of transmigration of the soul. Okay? It's like if we're in piggish consciousness, I just want to eat anything, then maybe after leaving this body, we'll enter the body of a female pig and take birth like that. It's a simplistic example, but we get the idea. Okay, so all right, so I thought let's look at that calendar picture. Okay, it's the Palestinian and the Israeli, the Jews. Let's look at that calendar picture, right? And I say, let's imagine that the Israeli soldier turns and sees he's being attacked. He's being attacked, and he kills the Palestinian pre-adolescent. Okay, all right. So for the Palestinian pre-adolescent, what's his absorption? Yam yam vapi saman bav. What's his bav? His bav is Israeli soldier. Is the Israeli soldier. So let's just, okay. So then, all right, so we might imagine that the spirit soul inside the Palestinian boy will take birth, let's say in Ramat Aviv or Petach Tikva or Bar, like that. Okay. So it's like an affluent Jewish suburb, mostly Jewish suburb in the Tel Aviv area. Okay? Because his absorption is in the Jews, the Israelis. That's his bhava. So maybe he takes birth there, if you're following me. So then that spirit soul that was about to throw the rock and then left his body because he got a bullet. So that spirit soul takes birth it enters into the womb of a Jewish woman outside of Tel Aviv and takes birth. And then just imagine, and I wrote like this in the article, let's say when he's 17, 18 years old, he enthusiastically enlists in the military and he gets a gun, and and his instructions are to be really careful. Be really careful of these violent Palestinian boys. Be really careful because he's standing guard in the. Okay, if you're following me, okay, all right. So the article is entitled "A Farce of Fate." Actually, Nagaraj Prabhu, editor for many years, many decades of Bhakti-Yoga, he came up with the title. Very nice title. All right, so that. So that we can understand, because like there's ethnic, religious strife, Jew, Muslim, Israeli, Arab. There's this ethnic strife, and then through that, article and through this discussion. So we, those cultivating this eternal wisdom, something we have to contribute for our own understanding and for the world is this I'll call it, okay, I'll speak here in terms of the macro view, the philosophical meta macro view, and then there's the micro view, and then there's the meso view. So grand, and then kind of microscopic, and then that kind of that meso middle level. So on the macro view, we cultivate an understanding of what's happening with respect to the laws of karma, to the principles of transmigration of the soul, to the principles of the difference between spirit and body, that I'm not white, black, woman, man. I'm not Jew, Arab, Chinese. I'm not Christian, Muslim. I'm spirit, soul, eternal servant of God. So we cultivate philosophical understanding at the same time. So my emphasis is for those aspiring to devotion to God, devotion to Krishna, following Srila Prabhupada. My emphasis is to cultivate realization and expertise in communication related to the macro and the micro view. Macro view, the philosophical understanding. That's my attempt in kind of what we've discussed thus far. And yeah, to share that. And Simon, there's a saying, people don't care what you know till they know that you care. Right. So I'm not suggesting or advocating just give them philosophy. Oh, you're suffering from oppression. Oh, well, it's your karma. So at this, we do want to cultivate knowledge. I'm reminded here of the great child devotee Prahlad Maharaj and his saying that a devotional heart, a godly heart, is paradukkha dukhi, feeling and experiencing the pain of others as our pain. So that gets to what I'll call the micro view, someone's internal experience. A great way to show that we care is to connect with people empathically. Okay, that their pain, their hurt, feeling oppressed, feeling shame, feeling humiliated, feeling the agony and the despair and the hopelessness, to be in their world with that. At the same time, not just the micro view, I feel your feelings and like that. That's important. Otherwise, it seems and is callous and uncaring, like just giving them philosophy because you're suffering from the ethnic strife. But people don't like when I feel truly empathized with, received, cared about, then naturally I'm open to your wisdom and point of view. If you're just trying to hammer me on the head with philosophy and I'm not feeling your care, I probably won't be particularly open to it. So not just the empathy and the feelings. Empathy, again, with Prahlad Maharaj, he had such compassion. Srila Prabhupada, he sailed on the Jaladuta at 70 years old, had 2 heart attacks on the way. He was rising at 1 a.m., undergoing so much austerity to give us this knowledge, his care so profound. And people felt that oftentimes just being in Prabhupada's presence. The spirit souls wanted to surrender their life. They had such trust for this person. And so Prahlad Maharaj, so care, compassion, empathy, acceptance, and not in a sentimental way, and with the knowledge to share the knowledge. When I say knowledge, not just like factoids or data or information, knowledge about the difference between spirit and matter, knowledge about the nature of the spirit, soul, and the nature of God, knowledge that will once and for all, in an enduring, timeless, lasting way, liberate the suffering conditioned souls from the miserable suffering condition, including ethnic strife and religious or so-called pseudo religious strife. So the micro view, personal care, and communicating that care in such a way that others get us, and the philosophical perspective, from Bhagavad Gita, from Srimad Bhagavatam, and the capacity to effectively communicate that philosophical perspective so that persons get the transformation. So to no longer implicate themselves. I'll throw a rock at you, you shoot a bullet at me. People will no longer implicate themselves in that karmic strife and related to this discussion. So it's not about giving knowledge so people become religious. I know myself, I've never been interested in religion. Sometimes people say, well, how come 6 hours per day you chant this mantra and you read these books and you participate in the conventional sense? As we quoted Srimad Bhagavatam, we quoted Janis Joplin, religion in that superficial sense. And even before I came, for many years before I came to Srila Prabhupada's movement, I have been excited about a process that actually transforms the heart from alienation qualities and greed, lust, envy, deception to joy and care and compassion. And so for me, I never thought I've never ever thought in terms, oh, I joined a religion 45 years ago. But like I was interested from the time I'm 18 years old in powerful processes that transform the consciousness. And this process of Bhakti-Yoga given to us by Srila Prabhupada, it's by far and without a close second, it's the most powerful, effective consciousness transformation process I've encountered, and thus I'm enthused and inspired to practice it and share with others with detachment, share with others, and they get to choose how they relate to what I share. And also, yeah, I'm not interested, I've never been interested in trying to get anyone to join anything. Okay. No, because then that just becomes like, yeah, I'm a member of this country, that country, I'm a member of this group. I was a Buddhist, but now I'm a Christian, so now I'm in this group. It's about what's the quality of the heart, what's the quality of the consciousness. And again, we're encouraged by such a verse as this, as we read today here from this 16th chapter of the 6th canto, to encourage ourselves and others, to give ourselves and to support others, to get inspired, to give themselves to a process that really moves the heart to transcend all of the upadi, sarvapadi, vidir, mukdam, taparat, vena, nirmalam, rishikena, sevanam, bhaktir, uttama. We transcends all the upadis, the false designations that lead to the sectarian strife. I'm white, I'm black, I'm Japanese, I'm Muslim, I'm Arab. And that's why this text emphasizes the Sanatana Dharma, the eternal Dharma. It's the eternal characteristic of the soul. As long as we identify, whether racially, ethnically, economically, or even religiously, with anything that relates to the body. Oh Lord, won't you buy me a Mercedes Benz? I need this for my image. Oh, and anything that relates to the body, that's going to be the source of sectarian strife, whether in the name of ethnicity, religion. And so this Bhagavat Dharma, emphasized in this verse, Dharma projita kortavitra parmanimat saranam satam, This is not bodily based. Bhagavad Gita pretty much closes with the instruction, Sarva Dharman Parityagya Mame Kam Sharanam Braja Aham Tvam Sarva Papebhyo Mokshayishami Ma Shucha. Krishna says, abandon all varieties of. Bhagavad Gita is a religious book. The conclusive guidance is give up all religion. Give up all religion. Give up all religion and just surrender to God. And sure, if some religious process or yoga process or philosophical system can help with deepening sincere surrender of my life to God, okay, we can accept it. But that the particular external process is not the ultimate goal. And so Bhagavatam naturally starts where Bhagavad Gita closes. Bhagavatam starts Nirmat Saranam, that this Bhagavatam is for those who are non-envious, fully devoted to God. And you may praise me, you may insult me, you may act friendly, you may act like an enemy. I'm going to be your friend in the most sublime sense by simply meeting you where you're at and encouraging you in self-realization and to love God more fully. And then in that consciousness, then there's no possibility of strife based on envy. Your group is getting more riches than mine. I will pull you down. I will slander you, like that. There's no envy. There's no envy because we're just in such a state of mind and consciousness. We're simply satisfied to how can I serve God with more enthusiasm, and then that's a joy, that's a bliss, that's unstoppable, that nothing can touch. We're not in comparison with others. And okay, so I'll pause there, and I thank you for listening. I welcome any sharing, questions, comments, challenges, realizations anyone would like to ask or share at this time.
Any questions, devotees?
Hare Krishna. Could
Dharma.
I ask?
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah,
Please.
yeah. This is a very interesting discussion. It's a little bit different than what we normally have, but it's definitely a part of Krishna consciousness and how we consider other people's concepts and ideas, and how we because we used to go to China years ago for business, and we learned because there was a lot of the Hare Krishna restaurants had closed by the time we went there in 2005, 2008, and we would try to find whatever vegetarian food we could. So we would go to the Buddhist temples. Some Buddhist temples, like in the big cities, are 1,000 acres, huge big complexes like cities.
Yeah.
And sometimes they would welcome us and give us, if we come a little bit late, they'd make a little eggplant for us. And we come to understand how in China the government promotes the Buddhist temples, because the board of directors on the Buddhist temples are the same as the board of directors in the communist government. So the government and the kind of religious process, it kind of went together because they helped each other to control the people, something like that. And then I thought, I got this little message on my email about a week ago that dear Govinda was talking to devotees in Singapore. And I said, wow, Singapore, what is that? And I thought about Singapore. It's such a clean city, but I had known that there's maybe a lot of potential conflict amongst the Hare Krishna devotees and the government there, and I don't know too much about it, but it's if you have like Krishna consciousness in Singapore, it seems to me it has to be squeaky clean, because otherwise the government will not appreciate it. And so I was just thinking about some of these things. Dear Govinda kind of brought us almost seeing these ancient villages in the Middle East. It was kind of a very descriptive part of the class. So I was just thinking about to be a devotee Hare Krishna movement, in certain places you have to avoid conflict by maybe not even compromising, but kind of working with the people in such a way so that it's not some conflict situation. Those are just some of my thoughts. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Dharma Bhavana Prabhu. I appreciate very much your sharing, including your experience in China and what's happening there. And yeah, it points to Srila Prabhupada, he wrote so many letters, so many letters about the importance for his followers to share the Krishna consciousness philosophy in a way with appropriate discretion, according to time, place, circumstance, person. There's one letter Srila Prabhupada wrote to Balavanta Prabhu in December 1972, and Balavanta was kind of a part of the In God We Trust party that Prabhupada gave permission for at that time. And Prabhupada specifically wrote to Balavanta, he said, yeah, if we want to attract intelligent people to Krishna consciousness, we need to be really good listeners. And he specifically cited the pastime of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, and Srila Prabhupada emphasized, that Lord Chaitanya listened carefully for days to understand the other perspective. Even though if the other perspective was nonsense, Mayavad, Prabhupada was saying, especially if you want to attract people, we need to really understand their point of view, and then with empathy and attention to who that person is, share with realization the universal principles of Krishna consciousness. I'll mention Dharma Bhavan. I'm assuming you're in Texas there.
Yes.
In 4 days, I'll be traveling to Austin, Texas, to conduct a Sappho foundational seminar. So I'll be coming to your part of the woods in a few days. Thank you, Dharma Bhavan. I appreciate your sharing. I appreciate your association here. Bhakti Rachel Hunt.
Aloha. Thank you so much for this. Can you hear me okay?
Aloha. Yes, we're hearing you.
Okay, perfect. I really appreciated the sharing and your teaching, and I had the realization of like how important it is to use the empathic listening and enter the other person's world. I really appreciate that part of this conversation, and what really also like struck me, made a little samskar, was what you said towards the end, where it was like, no matter how another person is looking at me, like my intention can be to like be that person's friend and be in their world, and that really touched me. Yeah. And then the last thing that that I'll share with a lot of gratitude to you, and also humility, like at the beginning when it was like reading through like the different kinds of religions, and that also like I had the realization to do some more research on the topic of orthodoxy and like Orthodox Christianity, because I'd like to know more about like the actual just like spiritual practices and consciousness separated from like the religious traditions, and also just to share that whenever I hear references to Christianity, I experience it as a reference to like everything but what Christianity actually is, because I didn't even know about Orthodoxy until like in the past 8-10 years, and no one knows about them because they've waged no wars, they've murdered no people, they've taken no money, they've assumed no power, and the group the group of original Christians in the first century, no, yeah, in the first 1049 or whatever year it was, that they separated and became the massive, business machine empire of the Roman Catholic machine, which then impacted like moved more west, so that more people were deciding, oh, I can twist this thing to like gain power and gain money. So to me, that is none of that is Christianity. And so I just wanted to offer that as a consideration, because like I feel that most people have never heard of Orthodox Christianity, which is the Eastern, versus Roman Catholicism West, which is like the Western wannabe Christianity. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Thanks very much for your sharing. I'm moved by how you're moved and impacted. And yeah, one thing, that's it. Like, and this is like, yeah, this is like the irony that if we give up plans for our happiness, then we get to surrender to service to God, which ironically, that's our real happiness. There's a text in the Bhagavatam, Savai Pumsam Parodharmo, Yato Bhaktirit Hokshaje, Ahetukya Pratyata, Yatma Suprasidati. And what it says is that if one has clear intention, I'll use some terminology we're familiar with, if one has clear intention to serve God, then nothing material can get in the way of that. And that's the bliss of the soul. That's the bliss of the soul. If the philosopher Epictetus said the essence of all philosophy is to live one's life such that one's happiness depends as little as possible on external things. As long as we're under the illusion that through external doing or having or this respect or that bank account, then I'll be happy, peaceful, satisfied, fulfilled. That's always chasing the carrot on the stick. And even if we get it, then we're scared that someone will take it or the government will tax it, or envy that someone has more and we're not satisfied. And the bliss of the soul is, I simply want to please God. And then if that's all we want, we can only succeed, because that service to God is available no matter what material calamity, catastrophe, or tragedy or downturn. We can always serve God through chanting his names, through sharing with others. And so, yeah, so that's real security. And I appreciate what you shared about the orthodoxy, and not that I know too much, but yeah, several months ago, I read a book gifted to me by Annette Anandini called The Mountain of Silence, and it's about the Orthodox monks on Mount Athos. They're one of the Greek islands. And then during my recent visit, which you were part of, to Europe, Anandini gifted me another book by the same author. His name is Kyriasos Markides. And so I haven't read this one yet. This is called Gifts of the Desert. I have a lot of attraction to the Desert Fathers. I've read some of their writings. Yeah, there's Justin Justin Martyr, Justin Martyr, and so I have a lot of, because it gets to like what you said, the essence. Even I know a few months ago, I taught you the Shema, which is, it's really the main mantra that Jesus chanted, and you got angry in a good way that how come no one ever told me this, because all throughout your life you're trying to be a devotee of Jesus, but then the action, what goes in the name of Jesus, it's so it's so many steps removed from his actual substance, spirit, personality, and teachings. I appreciate your sharing, Rach. Hare Krishna.
I have a question, Dhira Govinda Prabhu.
Sudarshan.
Yes. Thank you very much for your presentation. My question is this, and how does a devotee who understands Bhagavata Dharma, as you have explained, handle a situation where co-religionists impose a bodily concept of religion on you with phrases like convert, leave, or die?
Phrases like
Convert,
convert or
leave, or
leave.
die.
Okay, okay. Leave or die. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I guess I'm curious. Are you talking about a personal situation, or you have friends or family members in this situation? Convert or leave the country, that sort of thing.
Well, it has been the case in many places like in Kashmir and Bangladesh,
Yeah.
where followers of Sanatana Dharma are faced with situations like that. Yeah,
Okay. Thanks for sharing.
yeah.
Okay. Well, I'll share. Because that's a very stark, um, painfully difficult situation. So during those years in the Middle East book distribution, I shared an experience about 20 minutes ago with some fundamentalist type Muslims. But to a large degree, we associated with what's called the Druze, and so they have a particular approach to that question. Now, I'm not saying that everyone should follow that, but the Druze, they're actually known in the world as an unorthodox sect of Islam. Not the Jews. This is the Druze, Druze. My first book is entitled Krishna, Israel, and the Druze, an Interreligious Odyssey. And so the Druze are seen as an unorthodox sect of Islam. But actually, because they're very secretive, but they revealed their secrets to us. In fact, we would show their top political leaders, spiritual leaders, Bhagavad Gita, and they would see like the changing bodies picture and the chariot drawn with 5 horses. They would say, who revealed to you all these secrets? Because they have the same philosophy in their books. And so the Druze know they're not an orthodox sect of Islam, but they've pretended to be for about 1,000 years to avoid persecution. They know that they're a Vedic group. They're a Vedic group who transplanted to the Middle East about 1,000 years ago, maybe a little more. And their name for themselves is not Druze. Their name for themselves is Muwahhidun, which translates as Sanatana Dharma, the universal activity of the soul in service to God. But basically 1,000 years ago or so, 1,200, the Muwahhidun group, they basically were threatened in places like Egypt, what is now Egypt, Syria, Lebanon. They were threatened, convert, or die or leave. And so they adopt what they in Arabic it's called ta'akiyah. So externally, they sort of pretend to be Muslims, and internally they keep their essence. It's called ta'akiyah. It's actually a strategy. And I mean, it's in my book, and they revealed it to us. Ta'akiyah. Externally, they might even something like their top sheiks acknowledged, because many of the Druze, they eat meat, they drink coffee, and different habits like that. And they said the original Muwahhidun customs, no, it's vegetarian, there's no caffeine, but they've adopted some external habits in order to avoid persecution. But internally, they're Sanatana Dharma. They're the Muwahhidun. They're the Muahedun. So I thought to share that because it relates to your question. And then on an individual basis, you know, I would sense that one needs to look at what's my integrity here. And so internally, like, yeah, I'm a servant of Sri Sri Radha Krishna. And if I'm faced with a very hellish external choice, okay, what might be an external compromise without compromising my internal integrity? And to what extent am I? No, that would be a violation of my internal integrity, and I'm going to take a stand. And I'm ready to die on this hill. I'm ready to leave. So that would seem to be like an internal choice about what's the essence that I'm not willing to compromise, and what's external that, okay, I'm willing to adjust. Those are some principles that come to me. I appreciate your question and the discussion.
Thank you, Dhira Govinda Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Dhira Govinda Prabhu. Thank you for your presentation. I have a question. It is one thing to see a religious conflict as an observer, and it is another thing to be directly in the crossfire. So I just wanted to know if during your time in the Middle East in your preaching, if you've ever encountered people who share their frustration, who share things like vengeance or anger because they've been persistently tormented, or their lives made difficult by the other side. How do you relate to them? Because obviously they are not in a position to neutrally see things because they've been directly affected. you know so I just have this question, like, how do we relate to such people? Because this happens everywhere. If someone is caught in a war, who has lost their loved ones, who have seen very horrible examples of violence in front of them, they are not able to see things as we do, because we are seeing it from, we are hovering above the terrain.
Yeah.
But they have been directly hit, and it's very difficult for them to relate in a neutral manner to these kinds of issues. So have you encountered people like that who share their anger and frustration, and how have you related to them? Yeah.
Huh.
Thank you.
Thanks for your question. My response is, have I encountered? My response is yes, lots, a lot. And okay, and my response is founded on the principles I endeavored to present, during the presentation. Yeah, I remember when I was serving, like before the Arabic Druze book distribution days, a little bit earlier in the 80s, 87, early 88, I was serving as temple president in Tel Aviv. I remember we were having an evening devotional program 6 nights per week, with the biggest one on Saturday night, like that, rather than a Sunday feast program, Saturday feast program. And yeah, I remember we would have those who identified as Muslim Palestinian, and they would come and they would say about how they were oppressed and persecuted, and one just had a sister who died in crossfire, religious persecution. This was regular. We were at these programs, at our programs at the Tel Aviv Bhakti-Yoga Center I was directing. We would have Bhagavad Gita discussions and kirtan, and we would literally at one program, at a given program, we'd have some who would be labeled by much of the world as terrorists, literally terrorists. They would be labeled that way, and they would talk about how they would plant bombs in different places in vengeance. I'm not joking. This is true. And they'd come to our programs. And at the same program, there would be Israeli soldiers in their uniforms. And at the same program, there would be like those who identified as Christians who were traveling through Israel, and those who identified as religious Jews and secular Jews. And we'd all be dancing in kirtan and discussing Bhagavad Gita. As far as how I would relate, I endeavor to relate with attention to the micro view, empathy, enter their world. Enter their world. People don't care what you know till they know that you care. And enter their world. Be with them in their pain. And it doesn't mean I'm agreeing with their political views or disagreeing. It's not about right, wrong. Just be with them in their pain, their hurt, their suffering, their anger, their rage, their fury, their frustration, their shame, their humiliation. Be with them. Be with them in their pain, whether they're in the body called Jew, Palestinian, Christian. Be with them in their pain. And what we found again and again is when someone, not necessarily after a few minutes, but after cultivating a relationship, they would cultivating a relate where they felt understood and received and respected. That's the micro view that I referred to. Then more and more, they would open up to a philosophical perspective. And so to meet them where they're at, which isn't about agreeing with them or disagreeing, just meet them where they're at with understanding. Sometimes it says understanding is like life air. Sometimes an emotionally charged situation of hurt, pain, resentment, bitterness, hostility, fear, anxiety, an emotionally charged situation, all we want is to be understood, which isn't to be praised or agreed with or argued with. Just like if someone gets the wind knocked out of them, they're gasping for breath. We can offer them a pile of money. We can offer them their favorite meal. It won't matter. All I want is air. So understanding can be like life air. So that's the micro view. Enter their world, and to be willing to suspend my judgments. I agree, I disagree. Even suspend my sympathy. Like sympathy is different than empathy. Not like, oh, I feel so bad for you, but I hear how angry you are and how hostile, and you want to invoke vengeance, and I hear your hurt, and I hear your sadness that your child got injured. So, and then on that platform of understanding, that in itself is so human and vital, and that often opens up a room for deep, sincere, genuine dialogue around appreciating different diverse points of view. So my focus tends to be micro view, empathy. Then naturally, when on the platform of trust and not before then, when trust is established, naturally it opens up to maybe conceptual, philosophical conversations, different perspectives. Personally, in my life, I've never really gotten much into the meso approach. Meso is like politics, economics. I mean, there can be a place for that if some aspiring devotees see it's their service to get involved on the meso platform, politics, economics. I tend to not focus there. So I don't know if that responds to your question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna devotees. If there is any one last question, it is already an hour and a half. It's like you are nearing an hour and a half. If anyone has one last question that we could take or comments. It looks like there are no further questions or comments here, Govinda Prabhu. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you, devotees, for joining us, and we look forward to another session with all of you very soon.
Thank you, Dhira Govinda
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Hare
Vancha
Krishna.
Sarvasya Kripa Sindhuvya
Padithanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo
Thank
Namaha.
you.
Hare
Aloha.
Krishna. Thank you. Hari Bol.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu.
Yeah.